Welcome back everyone to the TrueChampionSteven channel. My name is Steven Rodriguez. I'm your True Champion, and today we're talking about Dragonic Overlord The End. Quite specifically with the brand new updated EB07, Dragonic Overlord The End, Dragonic Overlord the Great, and Dragonic Overlord, that's a lot of overlords, deck profile. And I'm really excited because I'm sure as a lot of you know, my favorite deck in the history of Cardfight Vanguard is the Kagero. Anything Kagero, I'm all for it. And thanks to EB07, there's tons of Kagero decks in the format right now. The one that I'm going to be covering today is probably the best one, but I reserve that right until after I'm done testing this super fun hybrid build of Dragonic Blademaster and Dragonic Overlords. So it's going to be super fun. Maybe I'll profile that deck as well. But today we're going to be doing Dragonic Overlord The End, the Great, and of course Overlord. So it should be super fun. If you guys have any questions about this deck or other decks, don't be afraid to ask them down in the comments below. And yeah, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright everyone, here we are in Cardfight area, my go-to program for playing Cardfight Vanguard right now. I kind of updated the settings a little bit from the last time I recorded here because it was kind of hard for y'all to see the deck and like the cards within the deck. So hopefully this makes it easier for y'all to see. Just let me know if it helped down in the comments below, or at me on Twitter or something. Follow me on Twitter if you haven't already, by the way. Free plug. Anywho, though, let's get started with the actual deck. Also, if you guys want to know kind of how this deck can square up against other decks, I am doing a brand new series on my channel called Know Your Matchups, where once a week I will be going over a particular deck or a particular matchup in either the Pokemon TCG or the Cardfight Vanguard TCG, and I'll go through all the intricate kind of ins and outs of that matchup. The very first episode for Cardfight Vanguard was Royal Paladin versus Kagero. If you guys want to check out that video, go ahead and check it out up in the iCards above. I added one up there, hopefully, and it should be super fun and really exciting. Hopefully you guys learned something from that video as well. If you did, let me know down in the comments on this video. But now with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Dragonic Overlord. So we play 9 grade 3s in this deck. Quite specifically, we play Dragonic Overlord, Dragonic Overlord The End, and of course Dragonic Overlord the Great. All 3 of them, and there's reasons for each one. So I think, and I think I've said this before time and time again, EB07 gave Kagero one of the most amazing tools it needed: pressure. It gave it such aggressive and pressuring cards that I have to include them in this deck, because now the deck is just so much more aggressive than it used to, and it adds a lot more tools to the deck. And this deck is literally just like aggression and advantage to the toolbox, so that's super cool. So let's talk about Dragonic Overlord. We all know this guy, forced 13k, blah 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 blah. If it hits, -1, discard 2, restand, attack again, -1 drive. Easy peasy. This card is literally guard me or I attack you again. If he's on force 2, it's basically, hey, guard me or take 4 damage kind of a thing sometimes, which is crazy to think about. However, you don't really play him because of his skill. You play him for 2 main reasons. 1, he pressures your opponent, number 1. Number 2, he's actually a super dope rear guard. And because force 2 is a lot more prevalent in this deck than, say, other force decks at the moment, having this awesome grade 3 that can still hit 23k by himself and have a crit for free is kind of busted. So I really actually like him a lot more as a rear guard in this deck, believe it or not, than say an actual Vanguard. But being able to ride him first before you ride either of your Overlords and get like actual value from him is super nice as well. You can easily cut this card though and play a 4/4 of each of them and like add like another grade 1 or another grade 2. That is perfectly within your right to do, and I would definitely not blame you for doing that. However, I think he adds enough resources and enough utility to the deck to actually warrant his slot in here. Moving on, we got the brand new Spaken, Dragonic Overlord The End, auto Vanguard at the end of the battle that attacked. Activate one of the effects below. You can activate both of them in the same turn. However, you can activate the same effect for the same turn, obviously. If your hand has 4 or less cards, Catalyst 1 and Soul Blast 1, stand this unit, and this unit gets -1 drive. So basically, if you have 2 cards in your hand when he attacks, and you don't check, and you do not check any drive triggers, he will restand and get you another card in your hand. Super nice. The other effect is if your soul has a card with Overlord in its card name, discard 3 cards in your hand, stand this unit, and it gets power plus 10k, drive -1. Super powerful. He can restand twice. If he has a force 1 on him, he swings for 33 the second 2 times. If he has a force 2 on him, he swings for a crit every single time. Which is kind of insane and super aggressive, and you can attack with a crit and restand for sure as early as turn 3, as your first grade 3 ride, which is just insane. This card adds a lot of pressure to the deck, and of course adds an amazing late game restander as well. And then we got 4 Dragonic Overlord the Great. When placed, call up to 1 Dragonic Neoflame from your rearguard circle. I did a deck profile for this card earlier when it first came out for EBO 6. I think this card is probably one of the best grade 3s in all of Kagero right now, if not the best one for sure. And then his effect is at the end of the battle that it attacked. If your grade 3 is in your soul, any grade 3, counterblast 1 and discard 2 cards from your hand. Stand this unit and one of your Dragonic Neoflame, and they get drive -1 to underturn. This card is literally stupid, and I love everything about it. The reason why we play more Dragonic Overlord the Great versus the end is really quite simple. I think the Great's better. Like, I just think he's better because late game having 5 force attacks is crazy. 5 attacks in force is broken. I will always say how broken it is, and Dragonic Overlord being an enabler for said 5 attacks is insane. Being able to go 30 with a Neoflame, then like 18 with your Vanguard, possibly adding a crit, and then 30 again and then attack again is just busted. And I think that this deck needs to lean more into that versus the outright aggression of Dragonic Overlord the end. However, they both are great at, pun intended, they both are really good at winning the game. I just think the Great does it a bit more consistently, and I'm all for consistency in this deck. And with the way that I've built the deck, it kind of can play both ways. It can go Dragonic Overlord the Great or Dragonic Overlord the end, especially depending on your matchup. And I definitely think in like any Excel matchup, Dragonic Overlord the end is honestly your best bet. And then like in any force mirror, you kind of like always want to go Dragonic Overlord the Great, but there are nuances here and there. That's why my Know Your Matchup series is super fun, because I do go over a lot of these nuances in that series. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. The first video was on Royal Paladin versus Kagero, by the way. Moving on to grade 2s, we have your Cut and Dry, 4 Berserk Dragon, 2 Dragon Full Armored Buster. These are non-negotiable. You got to run these counts in this deck because you want the ability to plus on your second turn of the game. You also want the ability to search for Overlords, because you never really want to ride the Great first. You almost always want to ride either of these 2 boys first, which is why we play more of them. Also, it's just nice having retire effects. These are the only retire effects in the deck besides Kimnara, so the deck isn't really retire focused anymore. It's more pressuring and Vanguard swings, and you want to make sure that you have really cool rear guards, or at least really powerful rear guards that can help against that. Plus, having 13k attackers is really cool because in Force 2 it means that you can just that means you can commit 1 card and then pressure your opponent with a crit, which is super cool. Moving on, we got 3 Neoflame and 3 Takat. You could definitely switch this up and do like 4 Neoflame and 2 Takat. I think is probably better, but I like going for the consistency. And honestly, even though I'm saying that I like using Dragonic Overlord the Great more, I do find myself using both of them an equal amount of the time. So having this equal split to me seems really good. I don't like having 3 Neoflame. I'd rather have 4 for sure. But I just don't see the space right now because I think 3 Takat is really busted. Like, being able to use this dude 3 times in one game whilst attacking with the Dragonic Overlord 3 times is pretty insane. For those that don't know what this card does, counterblast 1, put this unit into the soul, choose one of your Dragonic Overlord at the end, and when your opponent would call Guardian from their hand to Guardian Circle, they must put 2 cards at the same time. So it's kind of a guard addition effect in Kagero, which when you attack multiple times in a single turn, your opponent can't guard 3 PGs for every single one, so they have to commit more and more cards to guard the attack. And if you're using Force 1, for example, that means if they have to commit 2 cards or 3 cards, they actually have to commit 4. It's a really nice way to just dig more cards at your opponent's hand while pressuring them, and it's honestly super great. For those that don't know what Neoflame does, by the way, when you're Dragonic Overlord the Great attacks, counterblast, no counterblast, but gain 5k. It gains 5k for that battle, and counterblast 2 if you'd like to also add a crit, which is kind of busted. So these cards kind of add synergy to either of our main finishers, but because I feel like they're both pretty equal in how often I use them, I equaled them out in this deck. But you can easily go 4 Neoflame and 2 Takat, and I would not blame you. Moving on to grade 1s, these are like our main consistency engines. We got 4 in Airmo and 4 Sable Dragonute, also known as Discount Target Brand Airmo. Airmo, countercharging whenever an opponent's rear guard retires, and of course drawing a card, busted. There's a reason this card was like $30 at one point. Sable Dragonute, really good actually. Same thing as Airmo, retire it, draw a card whenever your opponent's rear guard's retired. However, he has this added ability of when an attack hits a Vanguard, when its attack hits, I should say, draw a card, and that is only on Vanguard Circle, which is super cool actually. One of my favorite things to do with this deck right now is to make a column of Airmo plus Sable Dragonute and attack a rear guard, and then draw 2 cards and countercharge 1 whilst killing a rear guard. It is an amazing play that lets you dig through your deck. These cards are broken. Play 4 of them, please. Also, being able to go second and plussing in this deck is super fun, I should mention. Next up, we got a 2-2 split here of Red Dive Griffin and Dragonic Dragon Mage Kimnara. So like I said, this deck is lacking a lot of retire power, so in a really rearguard focused deck, I want to have Kimnara in here as a way to kind of checkmate that, but in every other matchup, she's useless, so don't use her. She's just a ride target at a certain point, or free rearguard. But then there's Red Dive Griffin for the protect matchups, or for the force mirrors, where you force more cards at your opponent's hand every single time you attack. This card really allows you to be super aggressive, especially if you went for force 2 that game. I really find this card useful in that regard. I will mention really quickly, in the hybrid build of Blade Master and Overlord, this card is busted, so definitely keep that in mind. Also, fun fact about Red Dive Griffin, he works all the time, so whenever he boosts a Vanguard, it doesn't have to be a grade 3 Vanguard, so sometimes what I'll do is, if I'm going second, and I ride Sable Dragonute, and I have Red Dive Griffin, I'll call Red Dive Griffin behind my Vanguard circle, swing, boosting, and attack my opponent's Vanguard. If they guard, for example, with like a 20k, but because they're stupid, I can just go Soul Blast, retire it. So it's kind of like a guaranteed draw card while pressuring your opponent, which is just super cool. And if your opponent is dumb enough to put a card in the Guardian Circle, or like 2 cards in the Guardian Circle, God forbid, you can really punish them for being stupid. So that's why Red Dive Griffin is awesome. Moving on, we got 6 crit, 6 draw, 4 heal, and of course, Wyvern Kid Ragla. So let's talk about these grade zeros, because it's a little bit of a distinction from the last time I did a Dragonic Overlord, the Great Tech Profile. I've always been an advocate for 7 crits and 5 draws in Kagero, because I wanted the added aggression, because before, like I said, this deck lacked a lot of aggression. It really was just pure advantage, so I was like, why would I want more draw triggers when I could be more aggressive? And I thought this slight boost in aggression with 7 crits was worth it all the time, and I still think that. However, with the added addition of not only Dragonic Overlord the End, but Force 2, this deck can become inherently aggressive now. So why bother having an added aggression when I'm already plenty aggressive? So I added the extra draw, so that way we have more advantage, because we lack kind of draw cards, or we lack retire effects now. So I wanted more ways to draw and more cards in my hand to discard for effects like Dragonic Overlord the Great, and of course Dragonic Overlord the End. Now I will say that having draw triggers actually kind of sucks sometimes too, because if you have too many cards in your hand after you attack with the End, you can't restand. But that tends to not happen, and if it does, it happens after your first grade 3 ride, which is when it doesn't matter, because you can just discard 3 cards, restand, and then attack again anyway. Most of the time, you're still at less than 4, so don't worry too much about that. And we're also playing the Dragon Crit because he's freaking beautiful. Like, look how beautiful this card is. But you can also do, like, a really nutty thing of, like, 2, 2, 2 of each of the crits, and just, like, really mess with your opponent, make them think you're playing 12 crit, which some people are doing, by the way, in their Kagero, and it works, so keep that in mind as well. We got 4 draw triggers, whatever. And I'm playing Ragla mainly because I love him. Like, who cares about Undu? Ragla is adorable and awesome. I've been playing him in the Dragonic Blade Master deck, and I really do like him. But anyway, guys, that's it for the deck profile. Really cut and dry, simple. Dragonic Overlord at the end. Deck profile. I stand by this deck. It's one of the best decks in the format. It's one of my favorite decks. I hope you guys like it too. If you have any lingering questions about this deck, don't be afraid to ask them down in the comments below, or follow me on Twitch. I go live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday afternoon Pacific Standard Time. Also on the weekends sometimes. Feel free to come in there, hang out, and ask your questions live and in person. I love talking with all of you. I love talking about this game of Cardfight Vanguard and all kinds of other things. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so that way you guys know when my videos go live for you. And with all that being said, you guys, I have been the TrueChampionSteven. Thank you so much for watching this Cardfight Vanguard video, and I will see you all next time. Always remember to work hard, rest easy, and live well. Peace.